All right. I hope you're all very excited about this whole conference because I think it's phenomenal. I'm excited to hear from all the speakers that we have um, here. All right. So I hope everybody can see my screen. Does that look good? All right, we will dive right in. I want to be able to give you guys enough time to absorb all this information. It's kind of a lot, very technical, but I think you'll get a lot out of it. And yeah, this is new for I think for a lot of people. I've been sharing this with a few people close to us, and I shared a little bit with some of my clients, but you guys are the first to hear this entire presentation about AI and income protection. All right, so let's talk about how to stay ahead of the shift. So let's talk about just for briefly who I am. Let's touch on that for a second. I know that Laura already introduced me, but I want you to understand that I'm someone who knows this information and I want you to know that I'm someone with boots on the ground who understands what's happening in this arena. So, my name is Tanisha Souza. I grew up in San Jose, California. That's the heart of Silicon Valley, which is where we see a lot of the AI stuff coming from. My mother spent most of her life, most of her career in the IT space, right? In the IT industry as a computer software engineer. And many of my friends come from that field, actually. And I've also founded and I own several successful companies. I'm a US patent holder, a lawyer. I graduated from UC Berkeley with my undergraduate degree, and I have my law degree from USC. So, a lot of background. Of course, I'm from California originally. So, a lot of background in this arena. The patent I have is on software. So, I'm not going to talk about that today. That's not really why I'm here. But I am an investor. And I've been an investor for 20 years, and I've over 20 years actually. It's been about 27 years. I've for 20 years, I've used my patent to teach people how to create passive income with the income they already have with my company TARDIS that Laura mentioned to you. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today, I'm going to talk about AI and how, if it hasn't already done this, how it will affect your income in the future. It could be for the positive or the negative. And this is something that I've been following for some time, primarily because of my business, TARDIS Wealth Strategies. Like I said, I own several companies, but this one is, I think, more relevant. In our 40 minutes together today, I'm going to show you what you can expect when it comes to AI in the job market and in the business markets. And we're going to talk about how you can prepare for this. Um, and I want you to know this doesn't have to be a doom and gloom conversation, but it does have to be a conversation. And I will have some ideas and some practical things that you can start doing immediately. So to understand this, we're going to connect some dots. So let's start off with data centers. Now, maybe you've read about them or heard about them. Why do we need them? What's a data center anyway? If you're not familiar with IT or the things that I'm talking about or AI, you may not know what that is. So there are four reasons. AI is incredibly power and compute hungry. So every chatbot you see, every virtual assistant and chat GPT engine, it needs to use power. And the more companies integrate AI into their business operations, the more power we're going to need. And that's where data centers come in. So the US is the backbone of Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta. These are going to be the providers of AI. And AI-driven business transformation is happening across every industry, and companies are actually rushing to implement it. And we're basically in a global race to see who can do this, the fastest, the best. And that's why you see all these wars between OpenAI and Meta and things like that. Now, I mentioned that my mother was a computer software engineer. She doesn't do that anymore. She's semi-retired. But when she was doing that most of my life, she worked for Hewlett Packard for about 30 years. She worked for Fujitsu for, I think, 10 years, eBay, a lot of the companies in the Bay Area, the big companies. And so, part of I grew up and understanding all of this, the Silicon Valley language, what they're doing, what to expect. I know I knew some things before things happened because of my mom's background. So just to kind of give you more of an idea of why I know some of this stuff. Now, the United States is building these data centers at a super, super fast rate. This is the beginning of the AI industrial revolution, and data centers are the new factories. So if you can think about the industrial revolution from the past, the factories and how people built things, well, this is the new factory. So you can see that the projected growth of AI-driven data center capacity in the US from 2024 last year all the way to 2030, 5 years from now, you can see where we are today and where we're going. So just last year, it was, you barely saw any lift. Maybe, if you look at the capacity, it's more than doubled. And in 2026, next year, it will have tripled. And it's just going to keep growing exponentially until we see this massive swing by 2030. And so what I'm going to talk about is what I anticipate happening over the next 5 years. And it's not a guess or a guesstimate. It's really based on what is actually happening right now, what they're planning. And so I want to share with you what they're doing. So we're building data centers that will then offer incredible power that will enable companies to use artificial intelligence more cheaply. So the cheaper it gets, the better. So data centers offer more AI capability, cheaper scalable intelligence, and then we see mass business adoption of AI. So it makes companies a lot more profitable. So I'm curious to know if we have any business owners out there, or we have any people out there, how many of you are currently using AI? I'm curious. I'd like to see if you would just put in the chat, how many of you are using AI right now? In some capacity. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you can see that a lot of people use AI. There's still people that are not using it, but a lot of people are using it in some capacity. We see students using it. My daughters who are college students. One of my daughters, a college student, she is one of the people that uses AI quite a bit for studying, for taking notes, all that kind of stuff. So we're seeing it being used in colleges, in high schools, in businesses, etc. Now, it's not a matter of if they will implement AI to replace workers. They will, right? So who's doing this first? That's really the first question, is who's doing this first, and how will that impact you, and what can you do about it? So the first is large businesses. These are businesses with huge research budgets that are adopting the most quickly. So you can see that the ones that make over $30 billion, those are the ones that are doing this the fastest, the biggest, right? They're implementing it all over the place. 10 to 30 billion, they're next. 500 million to 10 billion, they're next. And then we see the ones that are under 500 million. So it trickles down, but they want to learn as quickly as possible how to use and deploy AI. They're the first adopters. They want a huge productivity boost. So you can assume, and of course it's obvious and it makes perfect sense, that these companies, especially the ones from Silicon Valley, they're the ones that are going to be the first adopters. A lot of them are creating the AI technology. And of course, if they're creating it, they're going to adopt it. But not only that, all of the businesses around them, ones that we use, a lot of the companies that we use for our business are located there, and they're also using it. So in most of we use Office 365 that has Copilot. We use Salesforce. Salesforce actually uses Einstein, and now it has Agentforce. There's so many different major companies in that space that are using it, but those are the huge companies that are using it first, and they're adopting it. So the four industries leading adoption are IT, finance, professional services, and manufacturing. So right now we're hearing what Stanford AI calls the canary in the coal mine. So they did this entire study on what's happening. And actually there's lots of companies doing this. So I'm sure you've probably seen the study that Microsoft did about the 40 industries that are most likely to be disrupted by AI and the 40 that are least likely. We're not going to go into that in this discussion, but I want to show you at least the 4 industries leading the adoption, and then we'll go down and you'll be able to see how it affects other industries as well. So these 4 industries, IT, finance, professional services, manufacturing, are leading the charge, and this is what it looks like. First, IT is restructuring, coding, and customer support. So this is why you're seeing layoff numbers starting to come from Silicon Valley, for example. So Microsoft, Cisco, Intel, this trend is going to continue. Like I said, we use Microsoft 360. If you are using any kind of technology, like for your CRMs and things like that, and they're from any of the big companies that come out of there, you're going to see more of these major layoffs. Here's another one in finance. Morgan Stanley, they're laying off 2,000 people in a shift toward AI-driven efficiency. Citigroup and Goldman Sachs have announced anticipated reductions of up to 200,000 jobs over the next 3 to 5 years. Professional services, the big 4 accounting firms are laying people off, right? So PricewaterhouseCoopers let go of 1,500 employees. Workforce rebalancing is already starting. That highlights that up to 50% of jobs in audit, tax, and advisory could be eliminated within 3 to 5 years due to AI automation. And if you think about it, the reason why is because when you're looking at things like call centers or customer support that have routine inquiries automated with chatbots and voice agents, you don't need to have people sitting at a computer answering questions, even if they're overseas, right? Before we used to, use customer service, or we need to change our reservation or whatever it is, and we'd be talking to somebody potentially in another country. Now, we're eliminating that need because we have customer support that's so easily done through AI. Same thing with coding and IT tasks. I don't know about you, but like I said, I have a lot of friends in the industry that are in the, computer science industry. And that was the field that everyone was telling their children to get a degree in. And now it's very difficult to get a job. What we're seeing is with Gen Z, for example, they're graduating college and there are millions of them that cannot get a job. So when we're looking at IT coding tasks like debugging code, it reduces the need for junior engineers, back office automations, all of that. So the reason why these big firms, again, are first is not only their R&D budgets, but the digital infrastructure and the scale, right? They have the ability to realize these cost savings immediately. The sooner they can implement, the faster they can be more profitable. Okay, and who doesn't want to be more profitable, whether you're a small business or a large one, of course. Okay, then there's phase 2. So we talked about phase 1. Phase 2, it's coming quickly. And that's next year, 2026, right? We're in the middle of 2025 right now. 26 is coming up real fast. So they're going to move from pioneer and prove cases, and those practices will become commodities, basically, meaning it's going to be easy to deploy it in various ways throughout the company. Okay, and so we're talking about knowledge work, report drafting, research summaries, compliance checks, creative work, marketing copy, video editing, design templates. Okay, and I'm going to give you a couple of real life examples. So I wrote a book that was an Amazon bestseller. It's available globally, and so it was, it did very well. I was seeking out someone to do my audiobook when I authored this book, and this is before I knew much about AI and all that. So at least, I mean, I knew about AI, but I just didn't know it was capable of doing some things that it can do today. So I was out looking to hire a company to do my audiobook, and they were going to hire voice actors. There's a lot of work that had to be done. It was going to take 4 weeks to do it and all of this. And so it's going to be, thousands of dollars. Fast forward to today, when now there are companies like 11 Labs that can take my voice, and this is what I actually ended up doing, and that can take my voice, clone it, and actually record the entire book for me in my own voice. So I have my own audiobook now that I only paid, the amount of money for the AI tool, which I think is $50 a month or something like that. So again, it's eliminating certain industries and fields. Creative work is an example. I also used to hire people to do my video editing, my videography for my ads, say like a book ad or something like that. And so they would hire actors and they would do, create these videos, and it would be thousands of dollars. Now you can create AI videos where you can't even tell that the people aren't real in some cases. And it's going to get more and more hard to tell as time goes on. So those sorts of things, graphic design, management tasks, what you're going to see are those types of tasks are going away because AI can do it more efficiently and faster. So first, we're going to see augmentation, right? Where AI assists humans. That's kind of where we're at right now. Then we're going to see substitution, where AI replaces the bulk of the work and humans supervise. And they really do need supervision for various reasons. I'm not going to get into the details of that today, but that's part of this whole thing. So phase two is coming quickly, and then we hit it, right? After phase two, what happens? We hit it. It's the tipping point. And that's something really big that's going to happen between 2026 and 2028. And it's not the data centers. It's not the data centers, because those will be complete by that time. The big companies have proven the use cases for AI, and they're building now very quickly. So what is that tipping point? The tipping point is the US workforce employment of small business, employees of small businesses, right? The big businesses, the large companies we've been talking about, they only employ about 54% of the entire United States, so about half, a little over half. The other half is employed by small business owners. So that's what we're talking about. That's when small businesses must adopt AI. The tipping point will expose the second half of the US workforce's livelihood. And this does not mean that every single job is going to be taken by AI at all. I don't believe that's going to happen, okay? There's always going to be people that need to supervise and need to do some other things. And new jobs will emerge from this for sure. Jobs that we haven't even come up with yet. Businesses and careers that we don't even know about, that haven't even come to fruition, will happen. But the tipping point will expose that second half of the US workforce. And so here's what you need to look for. So first of all, think about the market conditions that are forcing this. What's forcing this? First thing is competitive pressure and peer adoption. So when you have a small business who is implementing this, let's say it's a restaurant, right? A restaurant that's employing AI in their business. And you might think, how can a restaurant do that? Well, there's ways that every business can implement AI. But let's say competitive pressure. They're looking at the restaurant across the street, and they're able to produce food faster. They're able to get the people fed faster, do it cheaper. They're able to do all of that. And so they're going to have a competitive advantage over the restaurant on this side of the street. So by where we are right now, 68% of small businesses are already using AI, right? I asked the poll, how many of you guys are using AI? And it turns out that 68%, according to this Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business survey, 68% are already using it. That means that those who are not using it will feel pressure and start losing market share to those that are. If you're in business, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Here's another thing: rising labor costs and talent scarcity. Now we have the fact that wages are rising, but it's harder to find really good talent. If it's harder to find good talent and labor costs are rising, you're going to look for ways to reduce those costs, right? And so if you can speed up the process, eliminate some of the necessary, the people on your team or whatever it is, then that's probably what's going to happen. For a while we thought, at my company, at TARDIS, one of my companies, we thought that we were going to need to hire another executive assistant. I promoted my executive assistant to operations manager. We thought we needed to hire an executive assistant. Turned out that we were able to utilize AI to take most of that position, what that position would be doing. And so that saved us obviously a lot of money and allows us to do things way faster. Think about it. AI never sleeps. It's operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no vacations, no holidays. It makes it very, very easy to get things done and get things done very quick. Now, they're also embedded AI in tools, right? So we're forced to adopt it. Like I said, we use Salesforce. We have Einstein. Now there's Agentforce, which is a whole different, component that you can use so you can employ agents in your processes. We use Office 365, and that also, we use Teams, we use all of those things, and it has Copilot, which is its own AI tool that's embedded in it. So we're seeing that where it's actually there. It's just in, it's actually already in our tools that we're using. So once the return on investment is clear in peer business, others are going to rush to adopt. We're already seeing that. Then there's also the regulatory and compliance complexity, which is forcing AI adoption as well, because it helps with AI can help with tax, HR, privacy, all of that. So when we see that happening, all of that is going to bring us to phase three. And phase three is where higher level of expert and strategic roles will be affected by this. Now, here's how this works. Senior analysts, consultants, portfolio managers, physicians, attorneys, educators, executives will be affected by this. Now, like I said before, I don't believe AI is going to eliminate all these roles, but it will reshape them, augmenting or replacing the structured parts of their expertise. And so the risk is less about jobs vanishing overnight and more about fewer humans being needed per unit of output. For example, one investment analyst empowered by AI could do the work of 5 people, for example, right? So that's what we're talking about. So the jobs most at risk, right? Because what we're talking about it is by 2028, approximately 90% of all small businesses will be adopting AI. And that includes, businesses that you would think may not need AI, or how would they be able to use it? Like I mentioned, restaurants, I mean, they can use it for sure. Jobs most at risk are routine, repeatable, process-driven roles like administrative assistants, retail scheduling, claims processing. I used to have, people scheduling my appointments for me. We don't need that anymore, where people can just schedule, your calendar is available and they can pick out those points that you open it up for them for, things like that. Entry-level white-collar positions, junior analysts, paralegals, basic accounting, and then new jobs will emerge. This is what I was talking about. AI oversight, customer-facing creative strategy. There's so many things. I think, when we're talking about cybersecurity, for example, right, that's going to be more important than it was before with AI. And so you need to have AI tools that will be able to combat some of the things that we're anticipating are probably going to happen. But the challenge here is that the speed of job displacement may not, it's probably going to outpace the new jobs, right? Or creating the retraining that people are going to need to change what they're doing. And so those are the things that we have to watch out for and look out for. So here you have it. We're looking at a short time frame and a lot of unprecedented change. So the timeline from 24 to 2030 is early adopters from 2024 to 2025, 2026 to 27, mainstream adoption in small businesses and enterprise functions, and then widespread displacement across back office sectors. It's not limited to white collar. We'll see this in blue collar. I know someone whose uncle worked for, I think it was John Deere, which, is the tractor company, and for I don't know, 30 years or something like that, and he was recently laid off. And part of it had to do with what we're seeing here, this AI industrial revolution. So I know Duolingo laid off hundreds of people, like almost its entire staff. We see Vogue using like AI models and weird stuff. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things happening. But again, this does not have to be doom and gloom. So what's next? Right? What's next? Here's what's next. You need a plan. And I want to share with you some things that you can start doing today. And I'm actually going to demonstrate to you what you can do today to help you get ahead of this, to stay ahead of what's coming. Okay. So most people still think that AI won't affect their job or business, or at least not anytime soon. But the truth is, if your job can be written down and as a standard operating procedure, then you can be replaced. So if there is a standard operating procedure for your job, you can be replaced. Or if you're not good at using AI, right? You don't want to use AI. AI is ugly to you. You don't want to have anything to do with it. Will they want to keep you? Because they will adopt it. And those who do embrace it and move forward with it are going to be a lot more effective in their jobs than those who don't. So there's a lot to think about here. There's a lot to think about. All right, here's a snapshot of just some of the careers that are on the chopping block. It doesn't matter if you have a college degree. You can see that bank tellers, insurance agents, finance analysts, radiologists, technical writers, graphic designers, tax preparers, paralegals, loan officers, those are very high risk. And the reason is because they are transactional or rules based, or you can basically get the information you need online. And think about it, most people just take bank tellers. I mean, how many of us actually go into a bank these days? I mean, I rarely do. Like, it has to be something kind of major or catastrophic or something for me to have to actually physically go into bank. Most of the things I do online. And then I also use an app, right? If I don't do it online on my laptop, I will do it on my phone. And that's how most people transact business these days. So you're going to see less and less need for actual bank tellers. Insurance agents, right? If you're looking for, your claims, or, you get into a car accident with Geico, a lot of that is being automated these days. And so quotes, claims, rule-based evaluations, those things, I mean, it's making it so much easier for people to be able to self-serve. Finance analysts, it's really financial modeling, quantitative modeling, forecasting, and AI can do that a lot more effectively. Now here's something kind of interesting. This one's kind of crazy. I saw this article that said that I read a lot of this, I study a lot of this, but that AI outperformed 95% of doctors on the medical exams. And so, which is crazy, but it's just showing you that it's able to synthesize the available information about patients, symptoms and all of the background history of the patient to come up with a diagnosis more accurately than doctors. So, we can see that things are shifting, things are changing, and we're going to see some changes. The ones that are least likely to be affected are things like the skilled trades, therapists, counselors, even nurses and consultants, strategists, things like that. Those are medium or lower risk because of the trust, the emotional intelligence, things like that. So if you're in those careers, you have a little bit more time, but like I said, we're really still talking about a 5-year time frame for you to really get used to this AI stuff and really start using it to your advantage. Now that I've given you that to think about, I want you to think about how you can prepare for this. And what I realized in my 20s was that wealthy people, and I'm there now, and been there for a while, so I can say it with confidence that they don't rely on jobs for their income, right? They don't rely on even their business for income, right? Their business brings in the income, but then they make sure that they're building wealth on top of that. So it's not reliant on, the economy or, whatever the situation is happening. They rely on cash flow from assets, but most people don't have cash flow systems. Whoops. Uh-oh, what happened? Okay. Can you guys see my computer?
Yes, I
Okay,
can see
great.
your screen.
Okay. All right. My computer just went blank for a second. Okay. So what I realized in my 20s is that I needed to have cash flow. I needed to have passive income from investments. That's what That's what the wealthy do. But most people don't have those kinds of systems in place. Most people are high earners. There's a lot of Americans um, that are high earners, and even people who don't, they are basically just one paycheck, one layoff away from losing their lifestyle. And I'm talking about doctors. I'm talking about lawyers, people that I used to work with. That's what I'm talking about. So it's not really looking good for most people. 40% of Americans are asset poor. 49% live paycheck to paycheck, and 11%, a small slice, is considered truly financially stable. So the real threat is not only jobs, it's the loss of income that you don't control. So my recommendation is that you prepare for this, and that's the gloomy part, right? But the good part is you have time. Right now, you have time to prepare, and so do your children. If you have kids like me, I have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, and one of them's like, she's going to be out of college, in a couple of years. The other one's going into college next year. She's a high school senior. They're looking at all of this that's happening. They're like, oh my gosh, mom, like what's going on? Fortunately, what I've been doing is teaching them exactly what I'm sharing with you today. I'm telling them, get into this AI thing. I'm telling them to create alternate streams of income now. Imagine if I knew what I knew, what I know now, if I knew this when I was in college, it would have been a totally different situation. So this can help your children that are entering the workforce or working now. Okay, so here's the thought. AI can be your competition, or it can be your leverage. Use the same disruptive tech to build your freedom. Lay the tracks now to create a way to support yourself with systems that build cash flow for you. You can use it to accelerate wealth. And there's tons of ways of doing this. I'm sure you've seen a lot of it on the internet. You can start businesses using AI. You can stock trade using AI. There's lots of things that you can do. But I'm going to show you an example of how I'm going to show you some examples of how it can be used to invest now. It can be used right now to invest smarter. So here's some passive investment income. And what I mean by passive is not active. So stock trading to me is a little bit active. And so I don't consider that really passive, but that is a way, that is something, if you wanted to do that, that's something that you can do to create that safety net from AI. If you're good at that and that's something you're interested in doing, and that's once you want that to be your job, you could do that. But what you need is job-proof income, which earns whether you're working or not. Independent of employers, no company controls your cash flow. This is the benefit of this. Resilient to automation. AI can't replace dividends, rent, or interest, and it creates a reliable safety net and provides stability in an uncertain job market. So when we're talking about this and we're going, okay, well, how can I use AI to my advantage? I'm going to show you a question that came up with my clients, right? I have some clients that have rental properties, for example, and my clients are pretty well diversified into many different passive income streams. So most of them have multiple streams of passive income from various different types of investments of their choice. But we have some clients that have rentals or ones that want to, and here is this is the problem they raised. I want to invest in real estate, but if AI takes people jobs, how do I know my tenants will still be able to pay rent? So the question is, we have to think like the wealthy do, right? They have assets that create cash flow. And if you have an asset and you're like worried about the cash flow, or you're thinking, I want to buy an asset, but I'm worried about the cash flow because of this AI stuff, there's ways that you can use the AI to solve for that. Okay, there's ways you can solve for that. So let me go into this demo here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to pull up my trusty dusty ChatGPT, because I'm sure most of you actually use or have used ChatGPT. So let's get into that. I'm going to pull this up, and I want to give you a live demo of what you can do here. Okay. All right. So I've got a lot of tools here on my left, but let's look at, I'm gonna show you what you can do today. These are some ideas. So if you have that situation, if you're in that situation, you're like, I'm interested in real estate. And I'm going to tell you right now that what I'm going to share with you can be translated to other types of investments. It doesn't have to be real estate. It could be income funds. It could be mortgage notes. It could be any kind of passive income investment that you purchase and it produces monthly income for you or quarterly income for you or whatever. So you can use this same idea to do this. So we're gonna do one here. So I'm going to have it talk, I'm going to talk to it. So first, what I wanted to do is I wanted to help me by acting as my rental real estate research assistant. So what we want to do is identify AI resilient tenant profiles. So let's start with that. And this sometimes takes a little bit of time. So I'll share some other things with you while it thinks, because sometimes it takes a minute to think. So act as my rental real estate research assistant. Use publicly available information to research and identify strong rental markets. First, list careers least likely to be replaced by AI in 2030 with a brief explanation of why. Provide sources for your reasoning. All right, so we're going to let it think for a second and we're going to let it do its thing. Now, while it's doing that, I want you to realize that every single problem that you're looking at as far as investing is concerned, it's not always going to be solved by AI, but you are going to be able to have some alternatives and options, including you can use AI to do research for you, like I'm sharing with you right now, help you build criteria for investments, things like that. And there's just so much you can do to enable you to really be in the right position. Now, imagine how this gives you an advantage over other investors. So if you, for example, are interested in rentals, and that can be a hot market sometimes, right? We know that interest rates are a little bit higher than typical, but there's still ways that you can actually reduce the, actually make it so that you have a higher cash flow, even if interest rates are higher. And there's ways to use AI to do that as well. So let me tell you what I've done with mine. I actually have I have a multifamily property rental assistant that I use because I like to buy commercial real estate. What that tool does, and I built it in ChatGPT, what it does is it helps me to quickly identify rental properties that I would want to buy. So I've built my criteria into the back of this tool. It's sitting right here. I built my criteria into the back of the tool so it knows what I'm looking for. When a realtor gives me a property with all the financial information, I just put it in it and it spits out a result. It gives all the checklists of whether or not this meets my criteria. Then I can go back and I can use other tools and say, okay, what if we financed like this? Or what if I got an interest only or an ARM loan and then refinanced it after 5 years? Or what if I did this? Or what if I did that? And it will give me a 5-year projection or a 30-year projection on each property. Now, I have to tell you, this used to take me, it used to take me close to, I don't know, I think it was maybe, it would take me a week sometimes to do just research on maybe 2 or 3 properties. Now I can do it in minutes, and it's just so much more fun. Now, if you're thinking investing is hard or investing is difficult or any of those kinds of things, and we'll just do this so that we can actually wait until that's done. But in case you're wondering, you're like, investing seems hard, investing seems really complicated, it seems difficult. It used to feel that way for me too, but now I get excited because of AI, because AI actually helps speed up everything that I'm doing and makes it so much faster for me to do what I used to be able, it used to take me a week to do, or multiple days, or at least 8 hours to research, I'm able to do in minutes. So think about how many properties you could go through. I remember Robert Kiyosaki, I'm a fan of his. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he said, you have to go through 100 properties. You have to research 100 properties before you find one good one. Well, if that's the case, then that sometimes takes people months and months, maybe a year, before they find one good property. Now I'm able to do it so much faster just because of what AI can do. All right, so it's still researching right now, but it should come up with a result pretty quick. So a few more things that I want you to know, and we'll kind of dive into this, and we'll get back to this in just a second. Let me just get back to my, let's get back to this here. Okay. Whoops. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, so we'll get back to the demo in a second. Here's what you can use AI to do. Analyze deals, automate cash flow models, forecast market changes, create custom investing tools like we're doing at TARDIS. So the same tech that's taking incomes can build yours. You don't need to become a tech genius. You just need to learn how to think like one. So most people will wait until their income's gone. You have the chance to build a second one while you're ahead. And so I'm going to share with you some additional resources that that I'm just going to give them to you, right? There's a couple of resources that I'm going to give you. One of them is an AI real estate research checklist that starts with what I just shared with you today, that first prompt, and gives you several other prompts that you can use that will actually help you research real estate investments. So whatever market you're looking at, for example, whatever area you're looking at, it can help you to locate employment hubs, analyze local rental demand, do all of those things. And I also want to share with you a white paper. So a white paper that I wrote about the opportunities with AI. And so there's lots of opportunities here, ways that you can actually generate income. I talk about other ways such as besides investing, things like, building businesses that relate to AI or really solving people's problems in those arenas as well. So you can look at those as well, and that also makes a huge difference. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to share this with you real quick, and then we're gonna wrap this up. Okay, this is the results. Okay, so registered nurses and nurse practitioners, physicians and surgeons, home health and personal care aides, mental health clinicians, skilled trades, etc. Okay, so now we're looking at, let's say that we wanted to do traveling nurses. Okay, and if we wanted to use traveling nurses and do midterm rentals instead of long-term rentals or short-term rentals, like maybe for 6 months or 9 months as they're traveling, you can look at specific employment hubs around the big hospitals, and you can have it do that research. So I've actually put all of this out for you, and I'm giving it to you for free so that you can see exactly step by step how to do this for rental properties, if that's something you're interested in. But again, this can be translated to other types of investments. If real estate's not your jam, it doesn't have to be. And so I wanted to show you how it gives you this information, and it gives you sources so that you know it's not just making things up. Sometimes AI does make things up, by the way. But my tools have helped me to, analyze deals faster. It's helped me to do just pretty much get those deals, get my hands on those deals quicker. And it's enabled me to just be a lot more efficient and make more money. And it makes it so much more fun. Like I said, the least work, the less work I have to do, the better. All right. Last thing. Okay. At TARDIS, we've been teaching passive income building strategies for 22 years. We recognize that, this is our time. We're teaching people how to expedite this with AI and how to create streams of passive income so that by 2027, you have backup income streams in place. So join us for 3 days in September, where we'll work for an hour every day for 3 days to build 3 tools that will help you use AI with your investing, whatever that looks like. I mean, this is going to be an adventure over the next 5 years. And I'm excited about what's to come because I'm already prepared for it, and I want to help you prepare too. So whether you work with TARDIS or not, this is cutting edge information. Most people are going to wait until their income's gone. You have a chance to build a second one while you're ahead. Thank you for your time today. You can use that QR code to register for our event and also get those tools that I talked about. I want you to have the white paper that tells you different ways to use AI to create passive income, and the AI real estate research checklist. Those are bonuses I'm giving away completely for free just to help you. You can start using it right away to start building passive income.